Maakheru Amen. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. It's time we come together to raise our consciousness. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. Maakheru Amen. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. Maakheru Amen. It's time we come together to raise our consciousness.
Hotep, Hotep, Maat and Maakheru Amen here, and welcome to the Womb Evolution podcast. The Womb Evolution Technique is a proprietary womb healing system designed to help you alleviate stress, heal feminine disorders, improve your relationships, and heal from post-traumatic slave syndrome. This technique shows you how to restore the knowledge and functionality of the full feminine system, shifting your focus from womb or storage consciousness to uterine to universal awareness, which allows you to become unwounded and access your highest potential. All right. So this is part of the WTF, Womb Trauma Femininity Healing Series. And this is part 2 of the session that I started maybe a week and a half ago or 2 weeks. I know some of y'all mad at me like, really? Okay, how you gonna leave us with a cliffhanger, right? So this is part 2. What I left you with was in part 1 was that one of the reasons that it is difficult to shift into divine femininity, one of the very first reasons for that is because of our concept of a supreme being. All right. And most of us, our concept of the supreme being is always male. If I ask that question, this is just off the top. What's the supreme being, right? Or who name a supreme being? You know, you say God, Jesus Christ, Allah, Olodumare, Ifa, Ra, Amen Ra, right? Ptah. So you'll have those, those things just kind of roll off. Now, if I say in female form, you hear that? Did you hear the crickets? Right? Okay. And so what usually comes out, Oshun, Oya, Yemeya, Ased, right? Heteru, right? All of the female expressions that I mentioned all have fathers and mothers and probably grandmothers, right? In the if you look at the cosmology, all right. Ra, when we say Ra, we say Amen Ra. There's no father, no mother. I'm talking about uncreated, coming up out of the waters of new, right? So though that's a concept, that's a thing. You gotta think about that, right? You don't usually hear somebody just jump out and say knit. Okay, ra'et. Aminit. Right? Those are not, or any of the 8 primordials. I'm using the Kemetic, right? Concept. You don't hear that. Nebetetert. You don't hear that. Because we have not been taught or programmed, trained, or, told these things, even in our African traditions, right? We've been told that there's usually a female counterpart, but we don't know the stories of those female counterparts, right? Very few people talk about this and teach this. I have a little joke. I say... even if you're talking about Ra or Amen Ra, right? Okay, if you know those stories, right? Who's on Ra's boat. Okay, he got a boat. You know who's on it. You know what he do every night, where he go, who he fight a pep. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. What does Ra do? Where's her story? What did she do at night? Whatever. You don't hear those stories, right? And so that was the cliffhanger, right? So the reason I did that is because it's the same thing. And if you listen to the first podcast, you'll get more of this. It's kind of like what Malcolm X used to say about when he was looking to move us into a higher consciousness about who we are. And one of the reasons we wouldn't fight back is because our concept of God was a white man, right? So it's hard to fight God even if he being the devil and he looks like that. Now, I'm not saying we got to fight each other. Let me back up. I was just talking about the shift in the consciousness, right? All right. This us accepting that there is a supreme being and an attribute of the supreme being that is also female, equally, okay, uncreated, does not have a father, does not have a mother. All right, that exists as well. Then that takes us now to source. I say this often, that our most ancient ancestor is the creator, right? So we have the divine ancestry through our chromosomes. We have 23 from the mother, and we have 23 from the father. All of this time, we've been told to focus on, and when it comes to a supreme being, to focus just on the 23 chromosomes that's male. That those are primary. Those are the prime ones, that's source. No, source is both of them. But in order to bring balance, we need to be able to accept that 23 chromosomes that comes from the divine feminine is source as well. And especially if you are exhibiting that expression in your physical form. Especially if you're doing that. You have to be in full acceptance of who you are before you can even move forward. You need divine feminine, and and your value for a supreme being is male. You can forget it. You ain't gonna be no divine feminine. You're gonna be his support and his counterpart, and that's it. Because you're not gonna ever be able to see yourself as source, or you're not going to be able to see the attribute that is from the mother as source. You're going to go through him to see her, when you can go direct because you're in the form of her. And if you come into one of our womb evolution technique courses, which we're doing live now, this is in March of 2023, we will show you exactly how that cosmology is in your physical form. And if it's being denied, you're denying yourself on a cellular level. All right. So I wanted to say that. Now, part 2. Okay, I want you to get that piece, because part 2 is about changing your behavior. And that's the first step, really, in changing your behavior, is changing your consciousness about who you are. That your source is direct as well. That there's a direct source radiating in you. That is the divine feminine. That is a supreme being. Just as well as you accept that there is a source radiating in you that is direct from a male perspective as a divine masculine in you. We've accepted that to the nth degree. In order to bring balance and to be able to operate in unity with them both, you're going to have to raise your frequency and your value and acceptance of the supremacy of the divine feminine. Okay, without a father, all right, because that's one of the things we saw. You gotta have a father. No father. She's uncreated, and you have the access. You have the right. You have the birthright to access that directly. right? Okay, so that's one of the first things you want to do. And that's how you hold. The next one is to be able to hold your value. This is how you're holding your value. Because if you allow that to fully engulf you and really, really lean into that, right? You'll be able to hold your value a lot stronger. Okay, you'll get settled in who you are and what you really want. A lot of women, we're notorious for settling and not really standing our ground about what we want. Right? And the truth about what we really want to be in alignment with. Why? Because our value, we've been taught, this whole society has been taught to value the male. Okay, and that the male gives the authority to the female. In ancient times, actually, in order to be in a lineage of royalty, it had to come from your mother. It's your mother's bloodline. That's why you see in Kemet, and I explained this in my womb evolution technique class, okay? And you see in Kemet that whole scene where you see the pharaoh sitting on the throne, right? And where his feet are placed. This is all about the female. You'll see, and I'm not going to explain it in this podcast. Definitely come join us in the class, and the link is below. Is that whole thing is about his lineage being connected to the mother. Right? So this is the thing. This is nothing to fight about. If we're able to balance both of these energies within us, oh my God, how awesome would we be? Because it's not a fight. I always say it's not a fight, it's a frequency. The male role is different than the female role. It's nothing to battle about. Right? Our bodies do two different things. That's telling you don't got to believe nothing. Just believe what your body naturally does. Believe what you see in nature. Believe what you see in the cosmos. It trumps all cosmologies. It trumps all belief systems. Because that which is divine is going to happen naturally. You only have to believe nature. Right? Nature tells you what is divine. And so the chromosomes in your body don't fight each other, right? The 23 chromosomes from your father, the 23 chromosomes from your father, they work in unity. They work in harmony. And they do two different things depending on the form that you came in. So if we can just honor that, right? We can hold our value. We can hold our value in these relationships. We stop choosing and settling for things that we know we don't want. You don't have to work with anybody. Oh, I'll just, and I'm talking about me. Okay. Oh, I'll just wait until he's ready. He's saying he's not ready. I'll just wait over here and I'll just keep, operating in this relationship type behavior with him. Right. And, thinking I'm special, and I'm not, because there are other ones who feel special too. Right. Isn't this is stuff I hear all the time. I've been there. And thinking that there's nobody else that feels as special as I do. Right? Because of the way I'm getting treated. But meanwhile, there are others. And I know that that's not what I want. That's not how I settle. I think that, those who are okay with that, that's fine. That's fine too. But I know that that's not what I want. So you have to hold your value. Right? And don't even align with it. You don't have to work with nobody. You don't have to settle. You don't have to just see and, no, don't even do it. If I can tell, I have a daughter who's 8 or 9, I'm going to tell her as she's growing up, listen, don't even, you don't even need to play around with what you don't want. Unless you want to have that lesson, you want to have that experience, okay, so you can just be sure. But just know you're going to have an experience and a lesson, right? When you're done with lessons, when you're done with having the same experience, don't do it. You can hold your own value. What you want will be attracted to you. Perhaps the man that you really want is waiting for you to align with yourself and the value that you hold. Don't let anybody convince you that those type of men don't exist. The one that you want, they do exist. You just haven't aligned with them. Because you've been sitting around listening to somebody tell you that they don't exist so you can align with them. So you can settle. You don't have to settle. Right? It's just that you have to hold your own value. Right? And so this is one of the ways in which you do that. You lean in to the full frequency of your divine femininity. You allow yourself to accept that there is a divine source that comes straight from a female with no interruption. That doesn't have to have a male count, in a father that's telling this divine feminine who she is. That's hard to accept. That's one of the reasons why you probably can't hold your value. That's one of the reasons why, and then along with that, right? So try to hold that value, and you grew up in a home without a father. And if you grew up in a home without a father, let's say your parents were divorced or separated, whatever, right? And then the father wasn't around, right? He left her and left y'all, and you barely know him. Or not, and some, I have women, they don't know him at all. Okay, I say I was lucky. My parents did divorce, but my father was always there. He did not abandon us. He was there. So I didn't have the, yes, I guess I missed having him in the home, but I did not miss having his presence. And that is important. That's probably why a lot of us kind of lean towards the male. We want to have that, the security that we didn't get from our fathers because he wasn't in the home and he was not present, right? And so, but now, you know what? That was you when you were a child. That's not you now. You got to let that go because it's causing you trauma now. It's causing you to keep creating and keep attracting the same relationship. You're trying to find your father through a relationship, and you're getting a man that's just like your father, that's not attached, right? That maybe give you some gifts and stuff when he's around once a year for Christmas, but he's not committed to you. And that's what you really want. And so you have to separate those things. But in order to do that, you got to hold your own value. Sometimes you're going to have to move out of the range. This is something that I've had the experience with some women who've come to me with this, right? One of the things that I've seen is that they will, when it's going bad, right? They come crying and, High Priestess, I need this, I need that, and please help me or whatever. And then they go run right back to the same man who they got the damage from. Sometimes you got to go to the mother. He can't help you. He cannot help you solve your trauma. You can't solve your trauma from the same place you got it from. And it may not be that individual that you got the trauma from, but he's representing that. And they keep running back to the same individual, keep aligning with the same individual that represents that trauma, instead of going to the mother who can show you how to hold your value, show you how to shift your consciousness so you don't even attract that again. You don't ever have to have it. Right? But you're not going to get it from the individual that's representing that. And so if you need help aligning with this, right? I've been up here for this long time. The womb evolution technique, right? Mess with Maat, right? There are several, because I've been through this myself. Now, I may not have, like I said, I may not have had the background, but my father was not in the home, okay? But he was there in consciousness. He always was available. He was always calling us. He always let us know, hey, listen, I really want y'all to live with me. You know, he used to say that all the time. I think I'm going to take your mother to court, you know, so I can get y'all, you know. So there was always a male fighting for us. So for me, in my experiences with relationships and with men, yeah, I might, you know, I've been in a situation with, and, you know, this doesn't happen very often, but, you know, I'm like, okay, I don't know how, I guess I got caught up in this so that I could be able to explain this, right? I was in a relationship where, with someone who said they weren't ready or whatever, but I was willing to work with that individual because I thought I had something I wasn't, you know, I'm thinking I wasn't necessarily ready either. And I thought I had something that would be helpful to that relationship, and that I thought it could grow over time. Okay, but it turned out I settled, and it was not what I wanted. It really wasn't. And but I did learn something. I did learn something from it that was very valuable that I can bring to the table now. But see, but for me, I can't stay in those because I know what it's like to have a man fight for me. I know what it's like to be singled out and all of that stuff. So I don't have the trauma. So for me, you know, after going through some iterations in this relationship, I was like, listen, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then to find out that, you know, the whole time I'm thinking it's operating one way, and then, you know, finding out he's like, nah, I don't even think of you that way or whatever. What the hell? Like, come on. So it's no way that I could continue and not look like I couldn't continue, nor did I go to him to find my answers. I found my answers in source. I went right back to the direct expression of the Creator in female form. Right? I found that answer within me. I wasn't looking at him for answer. He gave me the answer I needed. So I don't have to go back over there and say, hey, you know, well, what happened? I need some closure. No, I got my own closure. Because I know how to balance both sides. I know how to use the supreme being as a female in feminine form to find my own source and my own value. But part of that, now let me be clear, this is not separation. You got to go back to what I said. I had a father who showed me love and support, who fought for me. So a man that's not fighting for me, a man that is not showing me that, hey, listen, I want you and I want us to be here, even if it's going to be 8 years from now. I'm not sticking around for that. I'm not trying to find out how I can work to get him to, you know, agree with that. He's not going to do it. Maybe never. So then that's when I have to decide, well, what's my value? What do I want? Okay, I was willing to settle. I was willing to work with this individual for a time because or whatever. But over the long term, I found it's not gonna work. And I was settling in the first place. So what the fuck am I doing? Oop, did I curse? Okay, so oh, this is a good podcast, right? So what am I doing? But I had the what I'm trying to show you is I had the balance. I had the female and I had the male balance. I had my father, the example of what that divine masculine looks like, right? And then when it all culminated and I'm finding, hey, listen, this is, he's not going to, he doesn't want what I want. And he may never want what I want. And so where is my value? I go to the mother directly, supreme being. Right? In me, let that come down. I get my answer. I'm not looking for my answers in him. He can't tell me nothing except what he already told me. That's the balance. And that's what a lot of women don't do. They don't know how to take that balance because they're missing out on the male. They're missing out on having a strong male support. And so they keep going back to the one that is representing their trauma for everything, for their male support and for their mother support. And so they don't come back over and say, hey, how did you do it? How can you just flip that off? When you in love, when you in, yep. Guess what? So I definitely invite you. I just always gotta laugh at this stuff because it's so funny. I told you somebody said, "Hey, if you could put this in a bottle, you'd be a gazillion billionaire, right?" Oh yeah, I can cut that off too. Why? Because maybe it really wasn't based on what I thought it was. Okay, I can show you how to do those things. You gotta mess with Maat, right? So there's some links below in the description. Definitely would love to have you all in the womb evolution technique. We're doing a live class online. So definitely you want to join me there. And you can ask these questions directly. Hopefully this gave you some guidance. If you need more, definitely check out the links. It definitely has been my honor, my pleasure, and I will see you on part 3. Hotep.
Maakheru Amen. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. It's time we come together to raise our consciousness. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. Maakheru Amen. Maakheru Amen. The High Priestess, the mimic who pulled me in. Maakheru Amen. It's time we come together to raise our consciousness.